I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello there.
Hello and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast for JoyClicks. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Connors, and as always, I have the illustrious Bur Yaga. No, that's not his actual name. Christian Buckley. How are you today?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if they stole that from me?
I'm thinking in my head, I'm thinking of like a fictional scene where you go to a courthouse and you ask a judge for your name change. And you say, I'd like to be called Bur Yaga Buckley. And you get your name changed. And that would be a really cool thing if that ever happened. But it didn't. So.
Yeah. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, man. Haven't been playing. I know like the past like 2 episodes have been saying that I wanted to play Battlefront 2, but I have not. But we do have some good Star Wars news, video game news to talk about today.
Absolutely.
So, how are you?
I'm good. I've been playing some games, none Star Wars, lots of sci-fi though. We did finish the Halo trilogy. That was fun. That was very good. And then lately, just a lot of Destiny. But there's some summer events still coming. You know, this Star Wars has a shot of showing up. We'll get to it later today, but unfortunately, it was not at EA Play, and things just seem to be quiet on the galaxy far, far away front in gaming, but maybe not for long.
You know, now that you've played Halo 3, Christian, would you have voted for Halo 3 the first time we did the Holo game?
I think I gave you 1 point, but I would have given you more for sure. I would have given you... I forget what I gave 3 to. I think I gave 3 to Wii Sports, so I would have at least given you 2, for sure.
All right. Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that. Well, awesome, man. I'm excited to talk about some Star Wars news. We were talking earlier that this is a pretty beefy one. We also have the last episode, the penultimate episode of The Bad Batch, episode 15 to talk about. Well, we'll get to that later on in the episode. First, I think we should talk and do our little segment that we always do called From the Jedi Archives. Christian and I both choose an article from the Star Wars Wikipedia. We bring it to Jedi Knights, and we educate one another on a piece of Star Wars lore, canon or legends. So, Christian, what'd you bring to class today?
So I was graced by the front page of Wikipedia this morning with FN0208, a First Order Stormtrooper. FN0208 was a human who served in the First Order's FN Corps as a Stormtrooper. FN0208 was named Worker of the Month by the First Order to recognize how greatly FN0208 worked in that month. FN0208 was then given 1 week of holovid access. Now, the FN0208 appeared in Star Wars Battlefront 2 as a hologram in a DLC.
Interesting. I was almost expecting you to say that this is the Stormtrooper that is like in Force Awakens and he's like traitor or whatever to Finn.
Yeah.
But no, that's a cool little character. Outside of Battlefront 2, does it say where else he shows up?
Just there. That is it. So
very cool.
We're waiting for the comic. Come on, Marvel.
What's the numbers? 0 to what is it?
FN0208.
That's the next big character right there.
Yeah. What did you pick?
Well, that's a good pick, Christian. I in line of what we are going to be talking about later today in this episode, I chose something that is sort of connected to that. I chose Ronto Roasters. So you probably know what this is, but for the uninitiated, Ronto Roasters, a quick-service restaurant located on the outer rim world of Batuu. Nestled within the market of Blackspire Outpost, Ronto Roasters was operated by butcher and noted pod racing fan Bakar, who decorated the establishment with a number of pod racing flags and installed a modified pod racing engine which hung from the ceiling at the restaurant's center. So this is one of the places where you can go get food, I believe, in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is the Disney Parks, world that they built, I think, in both California and Florida. And yeah, this is one of the things that I would be most looking forward to going to see in Galaxy's Edge. I just want to try all like the funky like food that they created and all the drinks and stuff. So I feel like this would definitely be a really cool place to go. And I love the world building and stuff. It's just cool.
Yeah, this is on my list. I'm going there. I'm getting lunch there on my Star Wars day. I'm getting a Ronto wrap, I believe. It's like a sausage and a pita with like some like coleslaw and like peppercorn sauce. It looks delicious.
Yeah, they got the Ronto wrap, and they also have the Tatooine Sunset, which is tea and fermented fruit, and it looks really nice. So I love to go.
Yeah, it looks delicious. I think they added a bunch of new food there as well recently. So they got like, I think this might be the cantina, but they have like boba, like the little squishy balls, but they're like it's like a Jello shot of boba. Like you can do it that way. Like it's really weird. It's very interesting.
That's really funny. Yeah, I think I just think the creation, and we'll get into this later on actually, because we're going to be talking about some more Disney parks Batu news. But I just love the creation and the creativity and like the food and stuff. I think it's really neat.
For sure, yeah, it's awesome.
Very cool. So that's yeah. So those are our picks from the Jedi Archives this week. I think it's time to move on to some of the hard-hitting news that we need to cover on this podcast, Christian. And I think the first one that we just need to get right off the bat, and there's not really much to it other than this, but the Bad Batch has been confirmed for season 2 in 2022. Yeah. So that's really all we have. We don't know what month or season or anything, but Disney Plus has renewed it for a second season. Overall thoughts, Christian. We had talked about this off pod a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Glad to see it. I like these characters. I would like to see more of them. And that's kind of where my reaction, excitement-wise, is at. It's just like, oh, cool. I like Hunter a lot. I really like him and the gang, and I want to see more of what they can do in different situations. Why not? Yeah, sure. And maybe we build them up more. The more pressing thing, I think, is that next year we have so much Star Wars stuff coming. Like, so
yeah, we do.
We got this. We got potentially Mando season 3. We got Andor, Kenobi, I think, and is the Patty Jenkins movie next December? Is that 2023?
No, I think that's 2023.
Okay. Whew. Okay.
Yeah, but that's 4. That's a lot, and I think all those are supposed to come out on Disney Plus. Right?
Yeah, and then Bad Batch. If I didn't count that, that's 5. So like,
oh yeah, that's 5. Yeah,
that is a lot of Star Wars stuff. You know, like between that and all the Marvel shows, there's gonna be like new stuff on Disney Plus like weekly next year, and there has been. I feel like for most of this year, but I feel like next year is gonna be nonstop and maybe double up in some cases.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think they could definitely do it. Like, you know, they can figure out a way to like, you know, put it out on their platform and space it out in a way that makes sense. I don't think they can't do that. It's just going to be a lot. And I'm kind of really excited for it because I just love Star Wars, and like any new piece of medium, I think it's just like, or any new show or really anything in the Star Wars, like, you know, universe. I'm just excited to see it. And we talked about this a lot. I think Star Wars does a lot better on TV sometimes than it does, you know, with movies and everything. Just like Marvel this year had like 3 really big shows. I think it's Star Wars' turn now. Really, all we've had is like, you know, the Bad Batch, 1 season of the Clone Wars, and then the Mandalorian. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm kind of excited for it personally.
Do you think because like within all the Star Wars stuff next year, right? There's, like I said, there's Andor, Kenobi, Mando season 3 potentially, and then Bad Batch.
And Andor.
Yes. Like, those, I think, have potential to all... Like, there's a lot of hype for Mando season 3. A lot of people love Rogue One. And then going into Andor, you expect there's going to be some sort of tonal carryover, which the tone of Rogue One I did enjoy, even though I have some issues with the movie. Very excited for the show. Kenobi, I think could absolutely disappoint, but the hype for that show is going to be like an 11 out of 10, like no matter what.
Yeah. Yep.
So Bad Batch, do you think is going to struggle to be on the same pillar of all those other Star Wars projects next year? Because I feel like that was a problem this season had, where the discussion online was not super prevalent the way it was for Mando for sure, but even like season 7 of Clone Wars, it's not the same amount of discussion outside of like the super fans, you know?
Yeah, like us, I guess.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, like because like I'll say this on TikTok, right? I follow a bunch of Star Wars creators, and that's where I started making content on there. And Mando for sure was getting like tons of conversation and stuff, and I rarely see Bad Batch stuff now, even from the same creators I follow. Like they're branching out to other things. So like, do you think next year with this wave of way more stuff, it's just going to get lost in the mix of things? Is this the one people will skip, or like, do you think season 2 is going to step it up?
You know, I think that if Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm Animation like really wanted the Bad Batch to be like their flagship show, they would have like pulled all the punches in season 1. And honestly, they took their time with it. Like, you know, it seems like they have a vision like akin to the first 6 seasons of the Clone Wars, or, you know, Rebels, or even Resistance for that matter, where it sort of just exists and it's there for the storytelling, but like it had its chance basically to become this big thing, and it didn't. And I think that they're just cutting their losses at this point, just being like, all right, that's what this is, right? Because I think when you put the Bad Batch up against something like a Kenobi, like fundamentally, objectively, I think people, the general audience are going to be more inclined to watch Kenobi over like this animated show. And I think that that's not like a secret. I think that Lucasfilm probably knows that. Do I think it's going to be overshadowed? Absolutely. I think that all the other 4 Star Wars projects are going to do way better than the Bad Batch. But my question is like, I don't really think that that's the point anymore, you know, if that makes sense. Like Bad Batch is just kind of like Lucasfilm already knows what it is, and it just is there for like the ultra passionate fans like you, and they're going to be spending more time and obviously probably more resources and more money trying to make something like a Kenobi kick ass, just to get like, you know, more people's eyes on it, because it's going to be hard to convince them to like, you know, jump into season 2 of this like extremely convoluted like animated TV show, right?
Yeah. So at that point, then, if Bad Batch, because I agree with you, I think Bad Batch is more for it's a kids show, so it is for kids to just be like, hey, I like Star Wars, let me watch this. But then also for the older audiences, it's more the big fans than the general audience. So do you think season 2 we will see more of that, like, hey, these are answering some questions that you had about this era for a while? Like, do we get a Cal Kestis cameo, or like, did they shift it at all to be a bit more, again, not made for the older audience like us, but I think, you know, giving more insight beyond just like, hey, let's check in with Hera. I know that's what I just said about Cal, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, shifting a bit more of the, like, we talked about the Crimson Dawn, like having that be a potential arc for this show or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think by the nature of it, like, you know, no one is expecting the Bad Batch to be on the level of like a Kenobi, right? So I think that they're just going to lean into that. It's sort of like what they did for the Clone Wars. Like, let's be real, like, was the Clone Wars, when it was airing like on I forget, Cartoon Network, was that as popular as like, you know, episode 3? Like, no, but it was for kids, like, you know, and that's like really at the core, like you said, what the Bad Batch is about. And so, like they did for the Clone Wars, I think that yes, they're gonna start to explore those like deeper parts of the Star Wars lore, and it will be, you know, it's a kids show primarily, but it'll just happen to also scratch that itch for like us adults who are super passionate about Star Wars and interested in the lore as well. Like, I just think that they know what it is. No one's expecting it to be a big thing. Like, I don't know. I just think that it's going to continue on. I could see it even going for like 3 or 4 seasons, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Just because of the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
no, I think you're right. My main thing is I think next year I'm going to be even more like okay, what are you bringing to the table with Bad Batch when there's all these other Star Wars pieces of media,
right.
You know?
I'll still watch it though.
Oh, I absolutely will still watch it. Yeah, for sure. I'm just thinking if season 2 is just season 1 again, then I think it's going to be like, it's going to look lackluster compared to what we all envision is coming from Andor and season 3 of The Mandalorian and Kenobi. You know, like there's high expectations for Star Wars on Disney Plus, and I think there's nothing wrong with Bad Batch just being fun Star Wars stuff, but I think the issues of this season, if they're in season 2 as well, are going to be highlighted more. I think that makes sense. Yeah. I do have a question. Do you think that the next season should be as long as the season that we just had? No, I think 8 episodes, personally.
Yeah, I think 10 maximum. That would be stretching it, but like, I think that there was just too much filler in this season. And I think Jack said in our group chat that a more focused season would be ideal. And I would have to agree with him.
Yeah, same. Just because, like, Clone Wars, I think, had 12 episodes, I think, for season 7. And even within there were, like, one of the arcs was... I mean, the first 2 arcs were kind of filler compared to what we all wanted to see, but they didn't waste time because they were contained. There was a purpose to those 4 episodes of each arc, right? Where here, it's like, where are we going a lot every week? Yeah. And I think if we shorten that down, it's like Mandalorian Season 1, right? We had this conversation early in this season of Bad Batch where Mando Season 1, only a handful of those can even be filler, right? Like, there has to be progression. Out of the 8 episodes of Mandalorian Season 1, it was like, okay, for sure 3 of them have to be important. And those, like, can be spread out well, and you don't have to wait too long. And I think that could just benefit the fan waiting level of episode to episode in the future.
I definitely agree with you. That makes a lot of sense. I hope that that's the case. Another question. We've been talking about a lot of these like new big budget shows that are coming to Disney Plus, especially in 2022. Not just Star Wars, but also like Marvel. When do you expect we as users of this service are going to have to start paying up for that? Do you think that the price of Disney Plus is going to have to go up because of all of these like big budget? Like, that's just the thing that I've been thinking about recently. Like, I feel like they can't maintain. I feel like they can't maintain the price of Disney Plus as it is now.
Am I wrong, or did it go up already?
It did, but like it's still a lot lower than you would expect it to be, especially since that they're like producing a lot of these like high quality, like big budget shows.
Yeah, I think we won't see a major price increase for a while because, I mean, like, look at Netflix. Netflix took like 7 years, right, to get their thing up to, what is it, $17 an hour or something like that? Like,
something like that.
It took a long time, and Disney is stupid rich, so like they can eat that cost to just get subscribers up and up and up and up, right? Like, until it's like, well, now we have so many people that the people we would lose by a price increase doesn't really matter. Like, I'm sure a noticeable price jump is still like maybe 2 to 3 years away, I'd guess.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to go off tangent with that. It's just something that I was thinking about. Sure. I'd have to agree with you, though. Anyways, back to the Star Wars news. So the next thing on the dock here, Lucasfilm, and I've seen him described as an historian of Lucasfilm. His name was J.W. Rensler, and he died at 58 on July 28th from pancreatic cancer. This had been kind of like going around the community, the Star Wars community, for a bit. I think his like family told people about it like, you know, a few months before he passed away. But I just thought it would be good to just, you know, remember his memory, I guess. He authored more than 20 books, including The Making of Star Wars, The Complete Making of Indiana Jones. And he also did The Making of The Empire Strikes Back, The Sounds of Star Wars, and Star Wars The Blueprints. He was the executive editor at Lucasfilm for 15 years. He worked with George Lucas, and he left the company in 2016. Star Wars The Blueprints, I actually own that. It's really cool. It's like all of the production sketches and like, you know, just like drawings of like all the ships and stuff, like with the dimensions and everything. So when they built it, like they could just like look off that. It's really cool. So I just wanted to bring that up. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Sounds of Star Wars sounds familiar to me. Was that a book or was that a documentary?
I think it was a book. It must have been a book.
Okay.
I think he mostly did books.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, sad stuff. Just wanted to bring it up. Remember the memory, you know.
Yes. Thank you for what you did for Star Wars.
Yes. So moving on to some other news. I did bring up Ronto Roasters earlier on in the podcast. And Disney Parks recently has released new information and price of Galactic Star Cruiser. So Galactic Star Cruiser, just to recap, is like the immersive hotel experience that's being built, I think, in Florida at Disney World. And it's basically supposed to be like a Star Cruiser in the Star Wars universe, and you like role play as a member of the Star Wars universe on the ship. And like, you know, you could either it's very interesting. You know, you could side with the First Order, you could side with the Resistance, you take a trip down to Batuu. Anyways, so the concept has been known for a while, but we actually have some numbers here as to how much this is going to cost. Christian, you can see the doc, so I was going to ask you to guess, but you can see it. I
can see it. I mean, I know we've brought this up before, right? This idea of this hotel thing where like the shuttle bus like doesn't have windows because it's just like screens to make it look like you're in space, like ridiculous level of stuff like that. Like, so I was imagining it was going to be at least a couple thousand, like at least 2,000.
I was imagining it was going to be at least 2, like you said. However, this is launching in spring 2022, and a 2-night stay in a standard room for 2 people on Galactic Star Cruisers in Disney World's off-season, so August to September 2022. The price of that standard room, 2 nights for 2 people, $4,809. That goes up to $5,999, so $6,000 for a family of 4 and a standard room in Disney World's off-season. So there will be larger suites available, and we don't know how much those are going to be worth. But that's a hefty amount of cash.
Yeah.
Though I would say, and we'll get into this a little bit later, you know, for what you get, I think it might make sense. But you know, just thoughts on that price tag, Christian.
I mean, as somebody who's currently planning a vacation to Disney World, like that's around like double where the current budget is. So like, I don't know if I would say it's not worth it, right? But like, for everything that's included, for the fact that this is a very specific, like, hardcore RP experience that you literally cannot get elsewhere, like, for a big Star Wars fan, especially for families, like, if your kids love Star Wars and you want to, like, give them this experience to remember forever, like, I'm sure that's probably worth it, you know?
You know, that's what I was thinking too. Like, if you're bringing your family and you're shelling out $6,000 for this to get like a once in a lifetime, like unique immersive experience, it might be worth it. Like thinking about if you went to Disney World and you stayed in a hotel and you didn't do this and you had a family of 4, you'd probably be spending more than $6,000, you know, like based
Maybe,
on
yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, like, I mean, it might be worth it to some people. And I think, like, for what it includes, which I can go over right now if you'd
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Christian, I think it might make sense. So, your Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser vacation package includes a 2-night stay in a cabin or a suite, an ongoing, immersive, and interactive entertainment where choices determine your experience, food and beverages on the Star Cruiser, excluding alcoholic beverages and specialty
All right,
beverages.
pause.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Are you serious?
You're shelling out $5,000 and you can't give me a fuzzy tauntaun?
Yeah, like I'm paying like maybe even like, you know what? I want a deluxe suite, Christian. I want a deluxe suite on the on season. So I'm paying like $8,000 for this, right? And you're not even gonna give me a beer for free? Like I don't even get a space beer for free. Are you serious?
Genuinely, like after the lightsabers and Rise of the Resistance, like I'd say 40% of the reason I want to go to Batuu is for the cantina, because they have. I forget if it was if it's a 2-drink minimum, but like regardless, they have a lot of cool drinks, and I will try several of them. You know, like they're all Star Wars themed. They even got like I think they have an Angry Orchard specific like cider that takes place in the universe and everything. Like they have all these partnerships and licenses that are like cool, fun things. For $5,000, one of those drinks, Mike, is like $13, I think, for one of the ones that I was gonna get. Like,
yeah,
you can't throw that in. Like, oh my god.
And you know that it costs Disney World probably like $5 to make, and they sell it to you for like $15.
And and they're all on tap. None of them are made on the spot. Every single drink you get in the cantina,
they're pre-made.
They're all pre-made. They're all on tap. Like none of them are mixed. Like there.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought that they mixed it there. That's kind of lame,
right? Like they do the special stuff with the glasses and like everything there for sure, right? They put in that work, but like it's not like you're getting a mixologist, right? It's probably like someone in the Disney college program just pulling a lever. Like that's it.
Yeah, truly. But you're totally right. If you're paying $6,000 for the experience, you would expect like, you know, maybe like 2 drink tickets, you know, something like that, right? Like, oh, you like here are like some drink tickets you can redeem, right? That would make sense.
Yeah.
But instead, I guess you do get food and beverages. But I guess what you get is a Arabesh thermal detonator Coke for free.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's kind of lame, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on, so you do get the food and beverages, excluding alcoholic and specialty beverages. You get a quick service meal at Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo, or other select locations at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Nice.
You also get admission to Disney Hollywood Studios for your planetary excursion to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So you're not like confined to Batuu, obviously. Mm-hmm. you can go to other, you know, places in Hollywood Studios. You get valet parking and an exclusive Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser data band, which is just their name for the magic bands that you get. So that's what you get. Obviously, the bullet point with that says ongoing immersive and interactive entertainment. That's the main crux of the whole thing.
Yeah.
No words can probably describe what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what you get. That's what you get.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot.
Yeah, I can tell you currently with my vacation I have planned, the only thing I don't have like cash money plans set aside for it is the hotel RP experience. Everything else is on my list. So like at that point it's like for 2 people currently the trip is I think around like $2,500 I think. So like
mm-hmm.
You're paying an extra $2,500 specifically for the hotel. And again, it's like we gotta wait for the influencers, the park bloggers to go and like give a recap of how worth it is. But like early on, I do think it is a lot of like, hey, this is like if you're really into Star Wars, the element of feeling like you're there, even more so than just walking through Batuu. Because like the benefit of that is Batuu, Galaxy's Edge. I've seen pictures, right? Place gets crowded. Like, it's hard to feel like you're walking like a bazaar in a galaxy far, far away when there's like 10 families just in the same street, right? But here it's like, no, it's trimming out the fake fans, right? Like that's what they're doing.
Honestly, like kind of though. Like, you know, you wouldn't spend that much money if you like didn't want to like fully role play, and like that takes a lot of commitment on your part, right?
Yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's like the super hardcore people that wouldn't like take you out of it most likely would be doing this as well.
Yes, right. Or like, you know, families with like kids that are super into Star Wars, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, I saw another thing on the internet. People were saying that this experience should also come with like passes to some of the rides in Galaxy's Edge, because from what I've heard, the Rise of the Resistance ride in particular is extremely hard to get on because you have to like register in groups. And I think it's not as hard for Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon ride, but like, you know, it's still probably pretty difficult. It would be cool, and I don't know if this is included. It might be, but it doesn't look like it. I haven't seen anything about it. It'd be cool if you got like, you know, priority access like to one of those rides, right?
Absolutely.
So, that would just make sense. Like you won't have to worry about like your chances of like, oh, are we going to be able to get on the Rise of the Resistance? Like if you're paying that much money for it, they should have a specific like time slot for you.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with how the queuing works for Rise of the Resistance, but it's all digital.
I'm not.
Okay, so it's through the app, the Disney World app, right? I think a day of, you can't do it like any other time. You have to do a day of your day for that park. I think 6 a.m. it goes live for you to try to get into a group, and you have a good window of about 4 seconds before it's all booked up.
That's crazy.
So yeah, like I think Smuggler's Run, you can just show up and just wait in line, and it's like you could ride that a couple times because it's not super long. But Rise of the Resistance, and like sometimes it even breaks down. So like, it is very difficult. And yeah, absolutely. Again, you're paying that much. I guarantee you, for the number of guests this cruise will probably have at a given time, they can probably guarantee, like, hey, we're booking this specific time for the cruiser guests, and that should be included, yeah.
It should be. If it's not, then I would be really upset, to be honest. Like, because like you said, it's so difficult to get a spot on this. That's like one of the major attractions of Galaxy's Edge, and if you can't even get on it, then that's really annoying.
Yeah.
So even if they have to, like, I don't know, open the ride earlier for them, like, I don't know, like, do something, but accommodate them.
Yeah.
I think that would be very prudent on Disney Parks' part, you know. So I did, you know, I wanted to point this out. I watched the roundtable that they had with the Imagineers that worked on Galactic Star Cruiser. And I thought it was interesting. They have, you know, obviously they're placing the ship that you're going to be staying on into the Star Wars lore. Obviously it's intended as like a completely immersive experience. You even show up at the Disney park in a completely separate terminal where you're like, quote unquote, flown up to the Halcyon, a 100 cabin Corellian MPO 1400 model Star Cruiser that is the quote jewel of the Chandrilla Star Line. So that's like that's the setting, that's like the world building, the immersiveness of it, and I think that's really cool that you even like enter the park in a different way, and that's like how you leave and get back on. And I guess the vision is that your actions on Batuu and the things that you do could change the way that like ship cast members interact with you and vice versa. And that's really cool. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think the initial pitch was like you could be on like the cruise ship bar, and then like a bounty hunter or like a first order person or Kylo Ren could come up and try to recruit you, and then you could be like yeah or no, and then like you get a mission or something. Like there's that stuff. And again, like after going through all this, I'm less certain of where I was initially of like maybe it's worth it, because it is like, what's the deal with the lightsaber? Isn't the retractable one only available? They said it was only available to the people who go to the hotel, I think.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. They haven't really necessarily said exactly how it's going to be implemented, but it looks like it's part of some like on board like activity.
Yeah,
or something.
There's the in-park one at the workshop where you build a lightsaber. And in the concept art, I think they've shown a room of like families at tables doing a similar process, what it looks like. So like, I don't know what their plan is. Again, if the lightsaber is not included in this hotel fee, yeah, I think at that point, if the lightsaber is not included and the drinks aren't included, then I'd question if it's worth it. You know?
Yeah, if the lightsaber's not included, the drinks aren't included, and you don't even get to go on the ride, like, what's the point?
No, but genuinely, yeah. Like, it has to be full-blown, I have to forget that I'm a human living on Earth with taxes to pay if, like, that's what they're gonna do for me. Yeah,
it's like, I don't want... Like, how is that an immersive experience if I have to wake up at 5:50 in the morning to get on my iPhone? And, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just stupid.
Yeah, no, you're right. So I'm curious to see what the people who, like, are in that industry of, like, the park reviews and stuff like that, what they think of this when it happens. I'm curious.
We'll have to see. Maybe it'll go down in price after people roast it. So,
yeah, maybe.
Anyways, so that kind of concludes our talk on Galactic Star Cruise. Is there anything else you want to say about it, Christian?
I'm glad it's not open when I'm there, because I would feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So, are you going? Can you just like tell us like generally when you're going?
This holiday season.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's move on to some video game news. And we've been talking about Star Wars video games, since the dawn of Jedi Knights. And we have some pretty meaty video game news to get into today. First thing, we got 3 main hits here. And I'm going to start with probably the most newsworthy of all. So Zynga's Star Wars Hunters, which we've talked about a little bit on this podcast. I think it's supposed to be like a Switch exclusive. That's been delayed until 2022, but there's going to be a quote-unquote soft launch in late 2021, which is like, originally when this game was supposed to be released. So there's that. We don't even really know what Star Wars Hunters is, other than that it's like a team-based multiplayer-esque experience. We haven't seen any gameplay footage from it. We haven't really gotten any inkling as to like how the game's going to even play. So this isn't on the top of my list of things that I'm like super excited about, but it is noteworthy to cover that it's not going to be coming out as soon as originally intended.
Yeah, I had a feeling that, I mean, I could have saw it go either way, I think, because they revealed it in February, and then we just never saw it this entire year. I think it's February, at least. Like, it was early this year, and I mean, I think my expectations were like, okay, it's probably like an arena-based game with multiplayer, so maybe like a Halo style of like, there's an arena and there's death matches, there's different objectives, it's multiplayer, not like first person Halo, but like, that type of game mode. So I could have seen a world where that was just dropped, be like, hey, it's out now, go off, buy our battle pass. But I can't say I'm surprised by the delay. Are you?
Not really, just because of what you said. We haven't heard much about it since the beginning of this year, but it's strange that we haven't really seen anything from it. You know, like I don't even really know. Like I was saying earlier, I don't know what this game even is, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious, what do you think they mean by soft launch? Because, you know, obviously they didn't give anything else out other than that. Do you think it's going to be like a beta sort of thing?
Yeah, I think there will be a beta to just test and you know, make sure the game functions and try and get some people out there talking about the game in maybe a positive way. Zynga, if you're looking for influencers, send 2 codes right here. We got some Switches. We like some games. You know, we can talk about it.
Honestly, yeah, I'd love to do that. So if you're watching Zynga, hit us up. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'll play it just because why not? I have a Switch, so, you know, I have no excuse. Though I said that about Star Wars Squadrons, and I still haven't played that game, so I'm a bad Star Wars fan. But yeah, so that's news. Hopefully we see something from it sometime soon. Speaking of future Star Wars games, Electronic Arts, EA, has hinted at a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2. So during a recent conference call with investors, EA CEO and director Andrew Wilson said, quote, "Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order coming to the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 was also a moment for new and returning players to jump into that amazing game. We're continuing to invest in both of these franchises as well as more of our amazing IP." So interesting. It's kind of like veiled words in a way. He didn't outright say like we're working on a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2, but he said that they're investing in both of these franchises and more of the amazing IP. The way he says it makes it sound like they're definitely hinting towards and almost basically confirming a Fallen Order 2.
Yeah, when I hear both of these franchises, I hear the greater Star Wars franchise and then the Star Wars Jedi franchise that Respawn has started,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it's just good news to hear that they're, I mean, it's kind of expected. Fallen Order did so well. People loved it. It was a little bit clunky when it first came out, but it sort of was able to overcome that, I think, for sure. So it's only, in my opinion, it's just kind of a matter of when, not a matter of if.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been tempted at some point. I think when they officially announce a sequel, I'll do a replay because it's on Game Pass and I have a next-gen console now, so I can see that Xbox Series update on my S, and just like see what's up and hopefully have a solid frame rate on Bogano, because that was the that was the thing that killed it for me. But yeah,
Christian, I would definitely do a replay with you since I have it on my PC. So once they announce a Fallen Order 2,
yeah,
you best watch out.
We will do a replay, absolutely.
So there's that news. Hopefully we get to see or hear something soon about that. When do you think we might hear something about a Fallen Order 2? Christian?
So there was nothing at EA Play, which understandable, they got other games coming up. I could see a world where we get a very, very vague teaser, like an official confirmation trailer, like just a cinematic teaser, maybe a minute long, maybe less, and then a year. I could see that at the Game Awards this year at the earliest in December.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then probably next E3 with just a bigger trailer.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we're going to be hearing anything about Fallen Order 2 this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're probably just taking their time on it. Yeah. So, honestly, that's good. I think take all the time you need. I would probably think that the most, like, to me, I feel like we might probably hear something like at E3. That seems like the earliest possible time.
Sure. Yeah.
So E3 next year, I think. We'll see.
Do you think we hear an official confirmation, like again, just somebody in a crowd say, "Hey, this thing's coming and it's happening. We're working on it." Do we see it for Fallen Order's sequel first or the next Battlefront?
I think we see it for the next Battlefront first. I don't know. I just think that I think it's unlikely that we hear anything about Fallen Order in the recent future. Like I think a Battlefront 3 might happen before Fallen Order 2. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're going to be getting like, you know, a person in the audience reveal like we did for the first Fallen Order. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, when they do announce it, it's going to be to big fanfare and a big trailer and stuff like that. So we'll see, I guess.
For sure.
But this next piece of news is actually something I'm extremely happy about. So happy about. We might be getting somewhere with Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, folks. You know, we've been looking up and down at Traveler's Tales for the last like year, wondering when this damn game is going to come out, and they have delayed it like countless times. It's probably only been like 2 times, but for me it feels like an eternity because I'm really excited for this game. But Gamescom 2021 is scheduled to happen between August 25th and 27th of this year, and it seems like they're going to feature some news about Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. So there was an advertisement for the event that was shared on social media, and it features a Lego Darth Vader. So people are thinking that, you know, this is going to be Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga's time to shine, and I think that they're probably right. What do you think, Christian?
I did not know that it was featured in advertisements, so yeah, I think we will definitely see an update here. I know Jeff Keighley, who is the man in charge of the Game Awards in December. This is his other show. He does Gamescom Opening Night Live, and I think he's been doing it for, this might be the 3rd year he's done it, and much like the Game Awards, every year I think the show just gets better. So last year's, I remember it being pretty good, like pretty solid, so I could maybe see him, with all of his connections, being able to get more and more exciting trailers and reveals and stuff like that. Maybe not Game Awards level, because those are pretty megaton, but yeah, I think maybe seeing a new trailer and hopefully release date for the Skywalker Saga would be realistic on the level of what Opening Night Live has had in the past, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's one of those things that's like overdue.
Yeah. Right?
So I am not surprised that they're finally getting somewhere with this. Because I think that they had delayed it, and they said something about like fall, right, of this year.
Yeah.
And it's getting kind of close to that, and we haven't seen any marketing or any announcements about it. So they got to be getting somewhere with it, with the game at least. And I think this is a good place for them to showcase it. And I think if, you know, this is true, I think it is. I got it from, you know, comic book, whatever. Mm-hmm. comicbook.com.
So, do you think if we see it, it's getting a release date for this year?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we see it at Gamescom, I think what we're going to get is we're going to get a trailer, we're going to get a release date. And I think that, if anything, I think the release date's going to be this year, maybe like holiday, so like November or even December. Okay. I think that's my prediction. That might be a little bit too optimistic, but we'll see. What do you think?
I think I could see it be like, hey, for sure, within like February next year. I could see that be a thing of like, we're giving ourselves a little more padding so we don't have to delay it again. It's for sure February 11th, 2022. I could see that. What I'm expecting, I could maybe see this be a December game. I think it would fit well in December. I don't think there's much else releasing in December. Like, November holiday season for games are always pretty packed tight, and on the PlayStation side, all their stuff kind of got delayed to next year. Xbox has Halo and Forza in November, and other than like the Call of Duties and Battlefields, there's not a ton of other stuff. So like I could see this, like Nintendo doesn't have anything besides a Pokemon remake really. So like a Lego Star Wars game dropping in December, I think would do really well for holiday sales, would give them enough time, hopefully, to polish everything off after all these delays. And I'll just throw a prediction out there. I know at Gamescom, Xbox is doing a show, and they said everything we're showing is an update to things you already know about. I could see this show up on the Xbox stage and maybe be announced for Game Pass or something.
Yeah, that's possible. Definitely possible.
Yeah.
I do have to agree with you. I mean, I think that it is a possibility that they say to the public, like, listen, we know that we've kind of screwed you a little bit, and we're definitely going to put this game out this date next year, like, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's too big of an opportunity for them to make a lot of money if they release it just in time for the holidays.
Sure.
And, you know, that's what they're probably looking at, to be honest. They've delayed it too many times, right?
Yeah.
I feel like whoever, I know it's Traveler's Tales, but like whoever else is involved, I'm sure wants to get that ROI, you know?
Yeah, I think it's Warner Brothers, but honestly, from everything we've heard about it, right, because we haven't seen much, but we've heard people who have seen it, like demos of it, that it's very impressive. It's like the most ambitious Lego game. Like it's doing a lot of really new things for that series. So I think genuinely, if they did show up with a 2022 early date, if they just show like 5 minutes of it with some solid gameplay and show why people were so wowed by it, I think they would kind of wipe away all the like disappointment of the constant delays, because it's like, hey, if we finally get to see why this is so different for them and why it's so ambitious, then it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is really impressive, this is all new for you guys, take your time. Like, I will happily play this whenever you drop it, but I think they probably just have to show why it's taken this long, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. I just think that, you know, originally this game was supposed to come out October 2020.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of money that's probably been lost through that. I'm just thinking from a business perspective, like the pure financials of it, like, would it be worth it for Warner Brothers and Traveler's Tales to sort of just like miss this like big spending season?
For sure, yeah.
Right? Like they already did that. Like they would be missing 2 of those.
Yeah.
So like that's a big cut, especially since they had to delay it. I'm sure they had to put more money and more resources into it. So.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say as well, just on that thought process, like, I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers doesn't have like anything this year for games. Like, they probably have a couple things, but their big tentpoles for this year were going to be Gotham Knights, which is like the new Bat Family co-op Batman RPG, and Hogwarts Legacy, the Harry Potter RPG. And both of those early this year got pushed to next year, 2022. And I can't think off the top of my head another Warner Brothers tentpole / notable game for this year. And I'm sure this, like you're saying, is probably one they want to get out before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I know that like it's different, probably definitely a different sector of Warner Brothers, but like even like with their films and stuff, they've been having a hard time like recouping some of the losses from like COVID. And like you look at movies like Space Jam, right, or Mortal Kombat, and like upcoming Dune, right, being released on like HBO Max and stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like they're definitely trying to like recoup some of their COVID losses by doing that. You know, if this is a different story whether that strategy makes any sense to like give it to people for free on HBO Max, but like, yeah, I don't know if they can really afford to like miss out on 2 holiday seasons when they still have to like recoup some of these losses they've made on Lego Star Wars specifically.
They do have one game this year, I just looked, and it is Back for Blood, the new like Left 4 Dead style game. that's coming out in October. So like I'm sure they'd love to. You know, they would love to have 2 games this year.
Yeah, Back 4 Blood, that literally just looks like Left 4 Dead.
No, it is. I tried it this past weekend. It was a beta I got a code for, and it was fun, but it was just Left 4 Dead.
Isn't it like made by the people who made Left 4 Dead?
It is, yeah. They were like, hey, they won't let us make a Left 4 Dead 3, so we'll just make our own. Like,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, Left 4 Dead 2 is a great game. Anyways, moving on from that. Any other thoughts about the Star Wars this Star Wars video game news that we just covered, Christian?
No, I think we covered it. I'm looking forward to all these days. So.
Same. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this episode. We are on the penultimate episode of the Bad Batch, the second to last. We recently just watched episode 15 that was released on Friday, and this upcoming Friday is episode 16, the last episode in the season. This episode was titled Return to Camino. It's part 1 of 2 of the finale arc of the Bad Batch. And this one's pretty interesting. I think this one really started to like ramp it up a bit. Big conflicts, interesting developments in the sense of like the clones and free will and etc. Omega goes back to Camino, even though Hunter told her she never would have to. They see some cool Camino technology, and it ends in a pretty big cliffhanger. That's the shortest synopsis that I can give without giving anything away. Overall, I really liked it. I think it set up some interesting plot points to be resolved in the next episode. It's starting to answer some of the questions that they had brought up in the first, 2 or 3 episodes of the series. And I'm just like, I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the journey that we're going on. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I thought it was very good. It was nice to get back to what I thought made this show unique, and also kind of what I thought made Clone Wars unique, where, yeah, I think the star of Clone Wars is Ahsoka, but the way they portray the clones as people and like flesh them out is really interesting. And that's what I thought the promise of the Bad Batch would have been. And it absolutely was at first, and it was like continuing that way of thinking about the clones the way the Clone Wars does it with the first few episodes. And then it got into more like structural tropes for this type of group and this era of Star Wars. But here it is getting more back to the ideological discussions and the inner conflict and the like what separates a clone from a droid, what's the difference between following orders and having a soul, and all of that stuff. And it's set to the backdrop of what I liked about the early episodes as well, which would be Camino, of this relic, I guess, of the Clone Wars, or this piece of this world that doesn't really have a place in it anymore. Like, I thought that was very interesting, and we probably couldn't have had a full season of that, but I think returning to that made me very happy, and knowing that this energy and these conversations will be carried into next week makes me feel very positive about the finale, I think.
Definitely. I have to agree with you. So I guess it would be worth kind of just talking about some of the main story points that happened in this episode and where it left us off, because there was a pretty big cliffhanger and pretty cool set piece at the end of this episode. So carrying on from the previous episode 14, Hunter had been captured by Crosshair, and the story mostly revolves around the Bad Batch and Omega, working together to try to rescue Hunter. They go back to Camino, and Omega knows about this really cool like underwater platform, which I thought was like really sick. They end up going back to Poca City on Camino, where they, long story short, end up rescuing Hunter. Crosshair sort of tells the Bad Batch that He doesn't have an inhibitor chip, and what he's doing is on his own free will, which is kind of interesting. The Bad Batch stun Crosshair, bring him with them, and as that's happening, the Empire is basically fleeing the city and destroying. Choose to basically bombard Tipoca City and destroy everything the Kaminoans had worked towards in regard to their cloning technology.
Yeah,
and that's where it sort of ends up. The Bad Batch and a stunned Crosshair are kind of caught in the crossfire of the bombardment of the city. So there's a lot that's happening in this.
Sure. I see, not to jump ahead, but I see one of your questions, and I do want to ask you something along those lines.
Yes.
You have, will Crosshair turn to the Empire? I want to ask you, do you think Crosshair is redeemable?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if Star Wars teaches us anything, it's that everybody is redeemable, right? Like,
Sure.
Think about it. Even Darth Vader, on a certain level, was redeemed of his like horrible, horrific sins by his son and his own actions. And like in that vein, also Kylo Ren was redeemed. So I think it wouldn't be very Star Wars of the Bad Batch for them to like, you know, make Crosshair into this like non-redeemable character. But I don't necessarily know if that is the path that they're going to take, because they don't have to necessarily redeem him. Maybe he doesn't want to be redeemed, right? Maybe he's just a bad guy, right? Like that's a possibility.
That's
and
where
the episode hits towards it. Yeah,
that's where I'm leaning, because like I think the revelation of like, hey, I'm doing this because I think this is the right thing to do, that I think makes me lean towards no. I don't think he's redeemable, because like look at someone like Boba Fett, right? Who for the longest time we all thought was a villain, but it was just because that's the way he was portrayed in that story from that perspective. But then when we meet him in Mandalorian, it's like, hey, this guy's not really loyal to anything except his code. Has he done bad things? Yes, but he's not like actively doing this because he believes this is right. Like he trusts his own morals and stuff. So that is more of like the anti-hero sort of approach, where Crosshair is like, oh no, I believe in the tyrannical fascist organization that I'm actively fighting for, you know? Like,
yeah,
I think, and I'm with you, it seems like they're teasing that maybe he isn't redeemable, or that that's not the plan, and I feel like he's not. I think if it does happen, I don't think it should happen this season. Like if next week it's like, oh, happy hugs with the whole team and Crosshair's with them again, I would feel I would have some questions, I believe.
Yeah, I think that would be fair. I don't know. I think that this episode, when Hunter tries to reason with Crosshair, right? And he's like, listen, man, this isn't your fault. You have an inhibitor chip. And Crosshair's like, nah, man, I already knew about that. It's not even in my head anymore. And it doesn't matter when I got it taken out. I believe in the cause, right? I think that was the moment where us as a viewer have to sort of just accept the fact that like he's not willing to change. Like he doesn't want to. He believes in it. Like he is doing it on his own free will, and like it just like wouldn't make sense for him to just be like, oh, Hunter, yeah, you know, you're right, you know. Like I think that he's just like completely brainwashed to the cause, and I think that he's sort of like an example, and he's symbolic of like a lot of the other humans that are now being like forced into the Empire to like carry out their evil deeds, because those people believe in it too, right? So I mean, I would also be upset if the next episode, like, you know, Crosshair comes to his senses and turns on the Empire, but I just don't think that that's going to happen. I think that maybe in the future that could happen in a future season where it could make a lot more sense and they build up to it, but right now it would just seem antithetical to like everything that he's about as a character.
Yeah, and personally, I don't think, even down the line, I don't know if I would want that, because Crosshair, I think, Crosshair is more interesting, I think, especially with the context and hindsight of the Clone Wars, of like, they're different from droids despite the way some of the Jedi treated them, and they have free will despite being copies of one person. So I think the idea that we have this group of good-hearted rebels, essentially, with the Bad Batch, and then all the other clones, with the exception of like a handful, kind of got obliterated or just withered away to history, or went to support the Empire. Like, I don't know. I feel like having a character we can associate a face and a name to with Crosshair, being someone who of his own free will was like, no, I think this is right, and make him a villain is more interesting than, I don't know, like getting him back on the team. I think that creates stress and loss and stakes for the team, right? And I think that's really interesting for Star Wars to explore, and I hope they go through with it the way we want it to be done.
Yeah, and I think it also, in a very unique way, answers the question that we've all had, right? Which is like, why are there no, in a way, sort of answers the question, or adds to the answer to the question of why are there no clones, like, as stormtroopers in the original trilogy, and like, why would any reasonable person want to join the Galactic Empire when clearly all they are is like a tyrannical, oppressive force, right? And like having Crosshair, who is a clone, on his own free will, make that decision to join the Empire and say, no, like, this is what I believe in. I think what the Empire is doing is right, sort of helps us understand as an audience how, like, regular people across the galaxy could also join the Empire and do these horrible things, right? It's sort of like flipping like the Clone Wars on its head, being like, listen, even a clone would do this, like, on his own free will, which in a way helps to answer the question as to, like, how the Empire got so powerful,
right,
and why so many people joined it. So I don't know, that's my thought on it.
Because unless I'm wrong, also, like, the only recognizable clones we know, No Remorse, did not give a damn about their past or their ties to the Jedi, and went fully all in on it, is Cody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even know what, like, I have no idea what Cody does after Revenge of the Sith. I don't think that's, unless I'm completely wrong, I don't think that's been explored in the new canon.
I don't think so.
So I think there is an opportunity to be like, hey, this is this character who we are familiar with. Granted, it was just from a couple episodes in the final season of Clone Wars in Crosshair. Like, we see this character who is a definable clone, like Rex or Cody or someone else, not fully fleshed out as some of them, but like definable, like, is a character that's not just Tamora Morrison and running in the background.
Yeah.
Seeing him go through with this of his own free will, like I said, and what you're saying, is really interesting. And it would, I like when Star Wars gets sad, and like it's like, hey, sorry, things can't work out this way. Like, I think leaning into that makes it more effective in terms of telling a compelling story about the fall of this time that we were all comfortable in,
Yeah. And I mean, like, you look at George Lucas's original intention, like the prequels in a way are just like one massive tragedy, right?
Yeah.
And like Star Wars never really sort of shies away from the dark aspects of like human nature and stuff. And I think that the Bad Batch, in a very interesting way, in this last episode, is starting to explore like what makes a person do what they do, and like, is a clone really different? And like, what is free will, and how does that exist when you're thinking about like people versus clones? And like, it just brings up a lot of these like philosophical questions that I honestly wasn't expecting to come out of the Bad Batch. But like, I'm happy that they're exploring it, because these are things that run in the undercurrent of the original trilogy that have never really gotten answers, and this is really fleshing it out in a very interesting way.
Yeah. And I do think that's why earlier when we were talking about next season and like episode numbers, I think you have like a really solid story arc throughout season 1. It's just there was a little bit too much time that was getting away from this, and I do think it's needed. Like Mando season 1, I thought had a good balance, right, of the main conflict and then trying to escape it, because like I think having characters on the run and trying to distract themselves is valid and good storytelling if there is a big traumatic undercurrent, which there is in this season, right? But just tightening it up a little bit, I think would really benefit the story arc and focus on these ideas that we're talking about that are brought up in this episode and were brought up at the beginning of the season. So
definitely. I do want to just very briefly talk about like what happened at the end of this episode. Basically what we see is that Vice Admiral Rampart basically evacuates all of the Empire from Camino. I think some of the I think the Kaminoans were left in the city, correct?
Yeah, there were definitely some, yeah.
Yes. So they take all the Empire out of Tipoca City on Camino, which is like the headquarters of the Kaminoans' cloning facilities. It's where they created all the clones for the Galactic Republic. And basically what they do is they Darth Malik style destroy Tipoca City like they destroyed Terrace, basically, in Knights of the Old Republic. They just shoot a bunch of lasers at it and just completely wreck the city from the air, from a bunch of Venators. And it's kind of cool, but really messed up. And lots of Kaminoans are dead, and the Bad Batch and Crosshair are kind of just like caught on Camino during this, and that's where the episode ends. So that's quite the way to end the episode.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're basically sinking the cloning facility, right? And considering we know that good old Sheev is experimenting with cloning on his own time, I could maybe see a tease at the end of next week where somebody from the Empire, be it Vader or Palpatine, goes to the wreckage of Camino to like get some sort of tech or data to build up this very, very in the background cloning plot that the shows have been doing since the Rise of Skywalker, right? Like, I think that'd be very interesting, and I would love to see that.
Yeah. I thought it was, I don't know, I just, sad that happened to Tipoca City, but it was kind of cool to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. It was like, remember there like the Battlefront 2 Camino map, it's based off of that episode of Clone Wars, right? Where there's like the droid attack. Like, I was thinking about that a lot during the sequence. I was like, damn, Battlefront 3. Maybe make this work. Because it was really cool. And so, yeah, it was a good set piece, like you said.
Yeah, it was very cool. But yeah, so I guess obviously a big cliffhanger. Where do you think is going to happen in the next episode? Like, where do you think it's going from here?
I think what I think is different than what I want. Like, I think the Bad Batch and Crosshair are going to like be like, hey, mutual benefit here, we'll help each other escape. And I imagine at the end, Crosshair will split off on his own, leave them, and this kind of a truce. I think that's the resolution next week. What I want is Crosshair to be loyal to the Empire despite all of this, like to a fault, and be prepared to kill them as they're escaping, and then they just gotta put a little headshot on their boy, and just leave him in the wreckage or something.
Yes, I think that would be a very interesting way to end it, and I would love it for that to happen, but there has to be a season 2, Christian.
I know, but so, like, then season 2, we can move on, because, like, maybe they're like, hey, if we just, like, leave some information with the body of Crosshair and like maybe all of our helmets. If the Empire does come back and they can see like, oh, they died, then they can just run on free and keep on trying to be parents to Omega or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that could happen. I wouldn't want to see that personally. I guess what I would like to see is, I wouldn't mind what you said about like, you know, they come up with some sort of like truce and escape together or separately, but you know, they don't impede each other's escape.
Yeah.
I think that might be what happens. I don't know. The Bad Batch at least are gonna find their way off Camino safely. It's just a question of what's going to happen to Crosshair, really.
Yeah.
Like we discussed earlier, I don't think he's going to turn on the Empire, or at least I hope not.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if he didn't turn, and then they have to like wrestle with that of like, well, we are going to help each other escape, but then when we're out in orbit, it's like, are we just going to let each other go, or is somebody going to take a shot? Because I do think a season 2 with split between the Bad Batch and Crosshair, I don't know if I'd want that, but I do think there's interesting stuff you can tell with like a returning conflict between them and Crosshair that both of us expected was going to be there this season, but maybe is a season 2 thing, and could be more interesting if Crosshair is kind of not wanted in the ranks of the Empire, and like he's like, no, well, I want to help this cause. Like, what does he do then? Like, there's more interesting stuff to tell for sure, but I think it'd be more impactful if they were like, nah, man, we can't let you go. Like, we just gotta end it right here.
I mean, yeah, that would be cool if they were just like, no, man, your time's up, you know, and just do away with him. I think that also is a possibility. Like you said, you know, they do that, they leave their helmets there, make the Empire think that they're dead, and they go start they kindle the fire that would start the rebellion, right? Yeah. That would be cool. And that's what the next seasons are about.
Yeah, dude. Like,
yeah.
Imagine if like season 2 of the Bad Batch is like the Bad Batch running ops for Bail Organa or something in like the early stages.
That would be sick.
That'd be so cool, because again, you could fit in that whole like mission of the week thing, but like you're building the beginnings of the rebellion. That'd be so cool. They train Cassian a little bit. Yeah, maybe we get into that stuff.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. He has been in this fight since he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So
this time's coming up. It's coming up.
So yeah, I think that kind of I hit everything that I wanted to talk about. I think about, you know, this episode of the Bad Batch. I think we have some big questions that will be answered in the next episode, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly and truly. This episode got me hooked, so I'll be watching this on Friday, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I am looking forward to seeing the finale. I'm imagining it's ending on a major cliffhanger. That was my immediate thought when I saw season 2 got announced. I was like, okay, well, end of season 1 is going to have a big thing at the end. I'm sure that it cuts to black. But yeah, I thought this episode was really, really good. It was very refreshing, because it seemed like everything came together in a nice way, that it's not that it wasn't coming together before, it's just it didn't feel like that was the point before, I guess, you know.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's if you want to give the Bad Batch season 1, you know, a score in terms of its I don't know, just like pacing, I'd give it a 0, but you know, it was fine overall, and I'm liking these last few episodes for sure.
Absolutely. So looking forward to the finale.
Definitely. Well, I think that wraps it up. Christian, you wanna take us out to sea?
Sounds good. Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2, as well as here at youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version of Jedi Knights in the playlist on the channel, alongside the playlist for all of the other shows available on Joyclicks. You can check out the audio version of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your service of choice. Just look up Jedi Knights without a K or Joyclicks. You will find it. Rating and reviewing would be appreciated if you can do it on your platform, because it helps the show out a ton, and we appreciate it. And if you want to support us on the monetary level, patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go at the $1 and $5 tiers. A $5 tier will give you producer credit for every show we do, including this one, like Aaron Easton and Charles Applin. So thank you very much. And that
thank you
is going to do it for Jedi Knights. We will be back next week with the finale of Bad Batch. And hopefully some interesting developments on a season 2 and what we can expect from a season 2. I'm looking forward to seeing how this wraps up, Mike.
Me too, man. I'm really excited to talk about it with you for sure. So on to next week.
Hell yeah. So until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.